So this is the brand new M2 MacBook Pro 13, and they've been using the same chassis since 2016. That's 6 years ago. If this was any other company using the same design, we'd all be going crazy right now. But the funny thing is, this design is still one of the better looking laptops out there. I'm not saying it's perfect in 2022, but if you compare it to a bunch of other laptops on the Windows side, it still has a very clean design. It feels solid. It kind of swoops over the edges. You have a very light form factor, not the lightest, but light enough. It still has the gold standard of touchpads. Like if you use this big, massive touchpad, it feels great, comfortable. Not butterfly switch keyboard to type on. And then of course you have the touch bar. Personally, I'm not a touch bar guy. I don't need it, just get rid of it. But I know there's a group of you out there that do appreciate it. The display, yes, it does have big chunky bezels, but to the people who are complaining about the notch, this does not have it. So if that's you, then this is right up your alley. Don't get me wrong, I don't think this product should exist because the MacBook Air is this computer with a bit more, but if you need fans and you don't want to move up to the Pro 14, then this is your only option. Now I will say this, M2 is not a massive performance update compared to the M1. It's a bunch of small little updates to make it a better package. You get the media engine now, you have more memory bandwidth. This also has high impedance headphone jack for headphones that can take advantage of it. You have a processor that has 2 more GPU cores. Those efficiency cores run slightly a bit faster. But the thing is, it's not a massive performance change in anything except for video editors. That's the one area that out of everything that I tested that I saw the biggest upgrade. Going from the M1 to the M2 was a nice bump in terms of video performance. Would this become my main editing machine? Absolutely not. I don't think it's powerful enough for the type of work that I do day in, day out. But if you're someone who's using this computer as it's meant to be used, which is being in a browser for Word documents, a little bit of compiling, but needs to edit a video every once in a while, then this guy is going to do a much better job than the previous M1 because of it. But if you're a gamer, then you shouldn't even be looking at this. Like MacBooks, period, M1 Pro, M1 Max, or even M1 Ultra. These are not gaming devices. But that was an area where I was able to push the GPU to see how much better those 2 extra GPU cores were. When it came to most games that I tested, I saw a performance difference of about 5 to 10 frames per second, both at its max resolution and at 1920 by 1200. If you're a World of Warcraft fan, there was a bit of a bump there. I had to lower the settings down to about 4, which is the recommended level, leave it at 1440 by 910, I believe, and I was able to have a comfortable experience. I got frame rates that sat between 75 and 90. But I also ran Blender because that really truly pushes the M1 and M2 architecture, and the difference was so minor that it was negligible. However, there was one area that I noticed the M2 kind of performed worse, and that was fan noise. It was a lot easier to get the fans to kick on with the M2 compared to the M1. There's probably just a bit more heat being pushed inside of there. I actually found the keyboard deck to get warm, never hot, just warm, and the fans kicked on at about 75% through my Puget bench test, whereas the previous MacBook Pro M1 did not. But I think the craziest performance update was the battery life. Like the battery life on this guy is just incredible. They actually increased the battery size by a couple of watt hours, and it does make a difference, but it's also probably compensating for the highly more powerful chip that's inside of here. And I was able to like literally use this thing through the entire day without having to charge. Whereas the previous one, if I got to the end of the day, it would get really, really low and I'd have to charge the device. Now, this all depends on your workload, you know? Like if you're using something that's not optimized for Apple Silicon, it's gonna kill the battery faster. But if you're using software that's completely optimized for Apple Silicon, then you can probably extend this thing for up to 15 or 16 hours. It just totally depends on what you do. The webcam on the MacBook Pro 13, M2, and M1 are exactly the same. It's 720p, so it's not the best. And if you want the better one, you're gonna have to wait for the upcoming MacBook Air. But the one thing that I think this is really geared towards are individuals who still want the touch bar, and those of you out there who can't stand the notch. If you're anybody else, anybody on this planet, I would wait for the upcoming MacBook Air. You're just getting so much more for a little bit less. And for those of you out there who want to see this be pushed to its full potential, then this product is probably not for you. Like, you are better off looking at the MacBook Pro 14 or 16 because those types of workloads can take advantage of the extra processor performance and GPU cores. Also, do not buy the 8GB version of this laptop if you're going to do anything more than Zoom calls, browse the net, or productivity. Because as soon as you start editing video or playing a game or opening up anything that requires a lot of resources, 8GB is just not sufficient. I ran Shadow of the Tomb Raider because I had one application open in the background and actually quit because there wasn't enough memory available. And the same thing happened once when I was running Adobe Premiere Pro Puget Bench. So get 16GB, I think it's the sweet spot. If you're moving up to 24 because you think you need that extra RAM for these crazy apps you're using, then I'd probably start looking at the MacBook Pro 14 because you're just getting a lot more stuff, like the better display, the bigger display, you know, more ports, the list goes on. But if you really want the last version of the MacBook Pro 13 and you are really obsessed with this design and having those fans, then yeah, the M2 is a nice iterative update. If you have the M1, definitely don't upgrade. It's not much of an upgrade. You're better just continue on with what you're using now until a newer version of the M2 comes on down the road, or the M3. But for everybody else, wait for the MacBook Air. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.